Welcome, look to METALLERIUM pages. It's a great pleasure to talk about your growth, this new album under, and more things related to the metal world. So we are starting by asking how are you doing today, and how is the band during the last 6 years, because your previous album Smothering Arms of Mercy was released in 2020.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me. I'm very glad to be here. Doing good today. Really excited. The album comes out on Friday. It's Wednesday morning where I sit currently. Um, I think the creation of this album, obviously, it's been a long time coming. We spent a solid 3 years on it, writing and rewriting pretty much every week for that entire time. So we're very much, we're kind of feeling in a holding pattern right now because we haven't played any shows for it as yet. We've got those film clips out. We're really, really keen to see what everyone thinks of the whole package.
Okay. So Under is the second part of the Planet trilogy that began with the Smothering Arms of Mercy. How does this new chapter evolve the story of the spiritual collapse and recovery?
That's very correct. This chapter, in particular, we're discussing less about the concept of a downward spiral, as is often explored, and what we've sort of covered in our previous album. This is more about the notion of what the path to recovery actually looks like and what shape that can take, and the simple fact that a lot of these things are far uglier and more jarring and extreme than a lot of people give them credit for. I noticed that there's generally like a lot of cozy sort of language and encouraging language around concepts of recovery from trauma, from grief, etc. I understand that will make people feel safer to want to take part in that journey, but we also need to acknowledge all the ugly, sharp edges to it as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, this album here goes right into it. We understand there's about 6 dimensions to recovery, from just either like the worst events that have happened to you, or a more complex background, like a spatiality of terrible things that have happened. So each of those songs addresses and speaks to what those stages can look like in a sort of more general sense.
Oh, okay. So the album title suggests a layer beneath the surface. So what
Mm.
does under represent in the construct of the human psyche and trauma?
It's speaking very much to the whole concept of identity and the fact that oftentimes, especially if you're feeling like you've hit rock bottom type of notion, right? Um, you're feeling like that's where you need to come from to recover, which is true. But in order to actually sustain a sense of recovery, you need to be able to explore why that was your rock bottom. You need to explore every sort of aspect of you that sort of led you to where you are, um, and acknowledge that in order to truly move forward in life, you need to allow yourself to stay in a space in between something that is very, very unfamiliar to you, that's nonetheless your own experience, but that is sitting underneath everything else that you know about yourself. It's very figurative, but
Okay.
it's very much about taking a journey deep, digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in order to be able to move up.
Okay. So another thing that captured my attention is about the cover art, because it was hand-drawn and a A2 paper. So how does this manual detail process reflect the liminal space the music explores?
Well, yeah, Tristan worked on that for months, just as he worked on the previous album cover for months. Everything that he does for these artworks is not only hand drawn, but is introducing a new motif of color, a new angle, And it's all, as time will tell, once people get a proper look at it and they get to compare it to the previous album, you'll see that they're all different perspectives of the same space that he's drawing. It's a very strange space. I like to think of movies like The Cube, or Hypercube, those types of ideas, or sort of Escher. He's got a lot of his own sort of influences with that. So we're looking at the same figure that was present in the first album, but now we're looking at them from a different perspective.
Unease.
So now, other thing that captured my attention is because I've been reading mostly in the new reviews for this new album, and also you describe many of these people describe your music as dissonant and suffocating. So how do you balance that extreme intensity with the moments of beauty and melody found in tracks like the title song?
It's a lot of fun to try and sort of get all that together. We're a big fan of especially the previous album, we're very much about like, let's just give people whiplash. There are no spaces where you can really sit with a hook or a melody and get to really enjoy it, because that's not what the mission statement was for that one. For Under the Under, we're allowing ourselves more room to just explore what something could look like if it was to get more uplifting, if it was to get a little bit more anthemic and catchy in that way. Strictly because it does reflect the mindset that we're sort of shifting from hopelessness towards, I guess, curiosity and a sense of yearning for something better. So that's where we started bringing in a lot more with the harmonies, a lot more with just the general melody and the cohesiveness of the songs, even the length of the songs. Like, these are all things that we've worked on to reflect this different mind state that we're sort of trying to explore.
Mm. Okay. So other thing that is like this, that the dissonant chords and unconventional scales are a staple of your sound. In Under the Under, did you explore any specific harmonic structures or non musical inspirations to create that sense of unison?
Yeah, I think, well, it's interesting because Tristan being the primary songwriter for like most of it, him and his brother, Nelson, the drummer. It's no, Tristan hasn't actually ever had formal lessons. He's kind of just figured out the whole instrument from his own perspective and his own point of view, which means that, yeah, we get to pair things together in a fairly unconventional way because it just flows more naturally. We're not kept up by that. I do remember reading that Stephen Carpenter from the Deftones had a similar approach in the early days as well, of just feeling things out and letting things fit together according to how you felt at the time. The songs themselves were written in a series of very short fragments, and every one of those sections was initially done by Tristan or Nelson to reflect where they were sort of at that time of day. By the time we sort of got to the writing process of this one, we're actually looking at a folder with hundreds and hundreds of little tiny sections that we spent a long time sort of cobbling together to create a bit more of a narrative. You'll find that with our music, there's usually two stories happening, or at least we're going for two narratives to be happening at the same time. On one hand, there's the lyrical narrative, which follows like a thread throughout the three albums. But at the same time, the music was being written initially by the Barnes brothers to help with a bit of catharsis, a little bit of therapeutic action as they sort of worked through a lot of their own things that they were going through at that point in time. And similar themes of like isolation, withdrawal, anxieties, etc. These are all really pushed out through the music, which is why you'll hear parts that just almost feel like they don't really have a place with anything. They just shoehorned in. A lot of that stuff is done very intentionally because it's sort of showing how jarring the mindsets are that was present when the music was being written.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So the other thing, but I mean, while I'm reading the critics or the new reviews, have compared your sound by likes Ulceret and Gorguts. For me, you don't have nothing to compare with them. I don't know why. I don't know why these persons compare like bands. You are more like you have other kind of influence for me, but according to them, there's compared to Ulceret and Gorguts. I don't know why. So, do you see the under moving further into the I don't know also into the this technical progressive territory or carving its own unique path?
I think that's yeah. I can see. I've seen a lot of the comparison to Ulcerate and Gorguts. Um, I think even in the early days there was comparison to other bands like Code or Vedwenzende or even Deathspell Amiga. I think that a lot of this is just based on um, if people haven't heard music and they haven't heard much like it before, they're going to just try and compare it to the most familiar thing that sort of had a similar, I guess, sense in their mind. We are heavily influenced by bands like Gorguts and Ulcerate, but yeah, we're definitely not trying to um, just channel them outright or do anything in particular tribute to them. Any further work that will be done through this band will continue to focus on sort of we're honing in. We started out with the like very long passage songs, very spaced out, very dissonant, atonal type of things, and we're driving more and more towards shorter, more focused, more aggression, and just seeing what all like we have a lot of different influences within the band. We all like the same stuff, but we all lean towards wanting to incorporate all different elements. Everything from even bigger bands like Gojira and that type of thing, are a big influence for the Barnes Brothers. I like trying to bring in more themes from stuff like Scott Walker, who was like, he started out as like a 60s pop singer and then moved into more avant-garde kind of territory. We're looking to bring all these things together and create something that we haven't heard before, and that can better reflect. It's all about reflecting the story.
Hmm. Okay, okay, okay. The other thing that captured my attention, especially because reading information about the biography and other things, the first album was written while a psychiatric care. So, how did the change in environment and the study of in isolation affect the atmosphere now for this under two under?
Yeah. So it's a really good question. It's really it's entirely different. When I was writing the lyrics to that one, there was originally no actual intent to put it out as an album. I was just writing things when I was where I was.
Mhm.
And I was there for quite a little while, so plenty of time to write and think. It was only when years later we started on this project that I sort of drew them back out and sort of thought about ways to better shape that to reflect the music. Even still, it was all very selfish. It was all very much like me narrative, or like me telling my story. Um, this album that we're releasing now, Under the Under, is much more about everyone else. It's much more trying to make it a much more central experience. We're not talking about a specific um, protagonist here. We're not talking about a specific character. There is a figure in there, but we're much more talking about we're asking questions, a lot of questions that we want people to really think about and consider deeply, especially if they're either getting through something themselves or they're helping others get through it. It's all about trying to expand perspective. So on one hand, while we're drilling down on the music to make it shorter and sharper, we're trying to broaden the perspective and make it more accessible to people to really start asking those questions and having those conversations with themselves and others.
Okay. So, growth achieved significant success on the charts without performing live initially. Now the lineup is complete. What can fans expect from the live experience of Under the Under?
Well, we've been drilling at home for a long time, so I expect that people will enjoy it. Right now, we're very much the set list that we're bringing out is a solid mix of old and new. We are cognizant that while we've been playing shows for the last couple of years, we've been very selective with those. And not everyone has even had a chance to listen to the first album, seen all those songs live. So we're still keeping some of that on board. But yeah, we focus on just pushing out the best performance possible. We're pretty militant with ourselves about how we drill everything in, how we make sure it's all nice and tight. Yeah, it's people, expect a pretty impassioned performance.
Hmm. Okay. So having completed the second step of the trilogy, what observable forms or themes are you beginning to envision for the final concluding album?
Well, that's one of the most one of the bits I'm actually looking forward to the most. I'm not trying to get us ahead of ourselves or put the cart before the horse with this one, but yeah, I think that the last part I've been thinking about for a few months now, and the whole notion about recovery, right? And what we're sort of the greater theme we're tilting towards being recovery. It's not about, I guess, the presence of only good feelings or the absence of bad feelings. In fact, like that was one of the things I'm always arguing against is that we can't be trying to achieve something in our lives that is better achieved by being a corpse. So the idea of like, I don't have sad, bad feelings anymore. Well, a broomstick has no bad, sad feelings. A corpse has no bad, sad feelings. We're going for something a lot more profound with our existence. And the idea of recovery is being able to have a meaningful life where you feel like you're giving the best of yourself and leaving a legacy for yourself, while also being able to face every high and low with the same energy, and to be able to just enjoy the weirdness and the richness of it all. So the new album, while that's sort of arriving and concluding at the top of this upward spiral kind of concept, the next album will definitely be more about how someone ultimately speaks to themselves and manages themselves, all the different characters that sit within us, because we're never just one person. There's a brave sense, there's a impassioned sense, there's a fearful sense, there's all these different parts of us that always jump forward in certain situations, and I'm always curious about how those parts talk to one another, and how they relate to one another. So at the moment, it kind of sounds like a bit of a pile of wank, to be honest. But we're going to very much refine that idea, and it's going to be about the whole concept of how do we reach a sense of inner concordance so that you can actually continue to grow and achieve and experience life in its most rich circumstances.
Okay. Now we are very close to this interview, Luke, and for this, and talking more about the promotion and obviously the future plans for growth and this new under the under. So what kind of plans do you have for the growth and obviously for this under to under? You will perhaps prepare more videos, or perhaps you're already working in the third part of the trilogy. You have, like, for example, like some, I don't know, drafts for the new album. Who knows? Or perhaps you will come for the first time to Latin America, Asia. Who knows? What kind of plans do you have in general for the growth and this new album?
Well, I think we just released the title track film clip, which is basically a movie. It's about 9.5 to 10 minutes long. So we're hoping to get that one out there a little bit more, and make sure that people get the chance to watch that one. We'll be playing some shows in Australia, across Australia, with our friends in Psychroptic and Rivers of Nile from America, and another really cool band called Slaughter Cult, who I advise anyone check out if you're a fan of Old Mortician. They're really cool. So we've got that in August. It'll be the first time we've actually taken things on the road around the country, and then following that up with further, like, lots of just trying to get more shows happening, get this out in the flesh, and definitely start to look at. There were a couple of offers on the table this year for Europe that we weren't able to take because of circumstances outside of our control, but definitely next year we'll get everything rolling now. You need to book these things a lot in advance at the moment. So yeah, it's just going to be a lot more shows, a lot more happening, and yeah, we'll give some more thought towards whether or not we're going to be doing any more productions on film clips for this album. We do pretty much everything ourselves, so it's pretty grueling. I think my spine's still recovering from digging holes from the last one.
Okay, okay. So now you can see the technical death metal, progressive death metal is evolving rapidly. So
Mm.
where do you think growth fits in a scene that increasingly pushing the boundaries of what's listenable?
Yeah, really good question. I have definitely noticed that, like, even just in the last few years alone, what I used to consider technical death metal, when I was coming up, bands like Anata, even Decapitated, when they were first touring, is sort of looked at as just a foundation now, and people are putting so many different things into it. I think because we are, we're going for like themes over genre ourselves. We're going for sort of concepts overall. So, I mean, we're happy to just continue being sort of some weird outsiders with this whole thing. I know yeah, again, there are some bands like, I was listening to a lot of the Flightblown Prince by Code a number of years ago, and that type of thing. I can see us sort of going towards these elements, or even like doing a lot of twists and turns in the Akakaka way. I really enjoy those bands that don't quite fit in with anyone else, but nonetheless still gel with them. And I'm happy to continue being one of those where you can play with a whole bunch of different types of bands all at once. I mean, we've done shows with metalcore bands. We've done shows with Concrete Winds from Finland. We've done shows with Obscura. It's very, very all over the place, and we like it that way.
Okay, okay. So, and one of the last questions for this interview. In an era of short attention spans and singles, you choose to release dense conceptual trilogy. Was this a conscious rebellion against the current industry trends?
Absolutely, just like we wanted to do what we wanted to do, and um, I think that while current expectations and trends are definitely a lens through which people should consider things, especially how you promote yourself, etc. You got to refuse to capitulate to that type of thing. If what you're going for if you feel strongly enough about what you're doing, just do it. I wouldn't hem it in based on the spirit of the place or time in that way, because you want to be able to turn around in 20 years' time when things might completely be different, and look at things and say, oh, like we just tried to align with a certain trend. It's always we do what we want to do, and we do it until we're happy with it.
Okay, okay. Well, look, we arrived to the sad moment of this interview. Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to speak with you about growth, this under to under, and more things related. So, congratulations on this new record. It's a solid one. And perhaps do you want to add something to your Latin American fans and obviously METALLERIUM followers?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, yeah, I guess the one thing that we would love to say is that we deeply look forward to getting to meet any and all of you someday. I know that travel's a little bit difficult and limited at the moment, especially from a small island, like we'll say small, it's just far away. Australia's far away from everything. So we'll do our best to come and see you, and we can't wait for that moment to happen.